Why we're doing this? Today is May 30th, which marks 4 years since my dad passed away, and it's a pretty rough day. I've been trying to avoid thinking about it, but I also wanted to just sit in my feelings because I actually don't do this often. I avoid all difficult emotions, but I wanted to challenge myself to sit and process whatever I'm feeling. So I had put together a list of what I think my grief looks like today and over the past 4 years. I came up with 5 ways I feel my grief has shown up. The first one being denial. I am still in denial 4 years later. Not very healthy, I know, but I am still in denial. And denial is a good thing because you live in this mystical world where the dramatic thing didn't happen because you have hidden it in a portion of your brain that you refuse to explore. I have boxed all those emotions and all those memories and put them in a box. Yeah, and locked it and thrown away the keys. Also, I think denial for me is very easy because one, I am not living at home. So yeah, that's like a whole new experience of life that has nothing to do with my relationship with my dad, in a sense. So nothing about living abroad reminds me about him, except the fact that he also lived and worked abroad for like 20 plus years. But majorly, my life here, there's nothing about my life here that will trigger me, as opposed to if I was back in my mom's house and, you're walking up and down the stairs and you remember how you would all walk up and down the stairs or that type of thing. So there's nothing necessarily triggering about living here. So that helps a lot with denial. The second thing that helps with the denial is, like I mentioned, he worked abroad for a long time, and therefore he wasn't always around. He would come home maybe once a year, twice a year, but we got pretty used to living with him very far away. So in a weird sense, it still feels the same. In my head, I have lied to myself that, he's just gone for work. But the truth is he's not, and he's not coming back. I don't think I'm ready to process that reality, like the finality of that. Sometimes I do, but most days I live in this weird delusional state where, my life here is completely separate from my life back home in my head in terms of grief. And he's just gone to work and he's gonna come back. Although I actually do know the fact that he won't. But, one reality is better than the other one. The second thing that I wrote is that my grief is characterized by flashbacks, very quick flashbacks that I immediately block off and move on. So sometimes I will have flashbacks to the morning of his demise and the events that went on that day very vividly. And I will immediately just block that off and distract myself, get on my phone, maybe watch TikToks or something, or read a book, or talk to someone, or sleep, or whatever. Eat, anything that will get my mind off thinking about such things. Or maybe like I remember a memory. Sometimes the way you remember some core memories from your childhood, and you're like, oh, that was great. And then you recall that, oh, wow, he's no longer here. So you just quickly shut off that memory and move on. So that's how my grief has also shown itself. The third way is by mourning all the missed opportunities and missed moments. And I don't know how to explain this. Maybe I give examples. For instance, like I mentioned, he lived and worked abroad for a long time. So sometimes I wonder what our relationship would be like right now that I'm also living and working abroad. I feel like I would call him constantly to ask questions and to laugh about silly things like culture shock. But I can't do that because he's no longer here. And that low-key sucks. It sucks that he had to go right before this huge milestone where I would have had so many questions to ask him. I mean, I was just becoming an adult. I'd have been asking him about managing money or investments and things like that. You know, things about adulthood that you ask your parents. The fourth way is feelings of guilt. A lot of guilt because I feel like I have moved on, quote unquote, which is in contrast to denial, because denial means I haven't moved on. But sometimes life looks normal. And by normal, again, when you think about the sequence of the events in my life, is he passed on and then I made a big move to a whole different place alone and began this sort of new life. So in some aspects, this new life has no attachment to him in a sense. So therefore, whenever I find myself enjoying this new life, I sometimes feel guilty because, oh my God, does it mean I am moving on? Yeah, so there's a lot of feelings of guilt. And then the fifth way that it manifests is feelings of shock when confronted with the reality and the finality of his demise. So, like I mentioned, I'm still majorly in denial. So there are moments where something will confront you and like bring it to your eyes and you can't deny it anymore. For example, if you're filling in a form and it asks for your parents' details and then they'll have the check mark for alive or not, and you have to tick that box. It just confronts you with that reality, like, whoa, that actually is my reality. You can't live in your delusion anymore. Or for example, recently I noticed that his phone number has been given to someone else, which of course makes sense, but still his phone number was still saved on my phone, and it's delusional to think that it will remain that way. But seeing someone else's face on WhatsApp against his number, it just confronts you with that, whoa, the reality is he didn't just go back to work and he's gonna come back. No, that's not what the reality is. And yeah, it's usually like very shocking. There's times when I'll watch people's YouTube videos or I'll watch a movie and the person's dad does something that's so endearing, and I'm like, wow, I will never get to experience that ever again. For example, there's a particular YouTuber who I watch often, and her dad comes over a lot to help with house things. Like, she did a whole big house renovation and the dad helped with planning and tearing down the cabinets and everything like that, going to the hardware store. He helps with gardening, he helps put heavy things away. And in those moments, the realization that I will never get to experience that, yeah, that sucks. That really sucks. And those moments usually catch me by surprise because I don't expect it. I'm just watching YouTube. It's a nice, chill environment. You're unwinding, and then it just hits you like, whoa. I'll never get to experience that. That's another example of how that manifests. Now, because I'm weird, I asked ChatGPT to generate some hypothetical questions that my father would ask me if we were to meet today. Very hypothetical. They're actually quite generic, but yeah, they made me think a lot. So, hypothetical questions that a father would ask after 4 years of not seeing each other, him missing out on life, that type of thing. All right, the first question is, how have you been taking care of yourself since I've been gone? How have I been taking care of myself? I sleep a lot. Sleep is one of my escapes and therapies. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, I sleep. If I'm upset, I'll sleep. If I'm sad, I'll sleep. If I'm stressed, I'll sleep. Honestly, naps solve almost all negative emotions. So yeah, I sleep a lot. How else have I taken care of myself? Recently, I have been very intentional about doing things that bring me joy, whether it's fragrance or trying makeup or traveling or hanging out with friends. Yeah, that has been part of how I've taken care of myself. The second question: what are the accomplishments and milestones in your life you're most proud of? How have you grown and evolved since I last saw you? Well, I began the job that I got. I moved across the across the world to start this new job alone. Yeah, it was rough. But it's been equally great and equally difficult. Equal parts great, equal parts difficult. How have you grown and evolved since I last saw you? I feel like I've grown up a lot. I used to be a child. And I think that morning when it all happened, I instantly grew up. Like, it was like, you gotta grow up and take care of things. So yeah, I've grown up a lot. I definitely feel like an adult. Number three, are there any dreams or goals you've pursued that you feel were inspired by our time together? How have you been nurturing your passions and interests? Definitely working abroad is something that was inspired by him. Honestly, I really wish I could ask him questions about his experience. Because when I was a child, like, I didn't think about what emotions he would process when going back to work and leaving family, or the excitement of coming back home. I never asked any such questions because you're a child, you don't think about such things. But now I definitely think about such things. How have you been nurturing your passions and interests? Something else I have taken up is YouTube, which is like videography and a bit of photography for Instagram or whatever. And that is something he also did a lot of. He loved taking photos. So it might not be actual photography for me, but videography, photography, it's the same thing in terms of visual storytelling. So that is something inspired by him. Number four, how has adversity shaped you? I would say it has made me believe that I can make it through tough days. Even though I don't actually believe it every single day. These days when I'm like, whoa, this difficult day is a lot. But deep down, if I reflect, I'm like, if I've made it through such tough days, I probably can make it through other tough days. And then the last question, can you tell me about the relationships and connections you've built since I've been gone? Who are the people who have supported you and brought joy into your life? Well, for one, the relationship I have with my family, my immediate family, has definitely helped a lot and has grown a lot. Yeah, I talk to my mom like every day. I have become those adults that talk to their moms every day. I met my partner and he is an amazing person. It has been fun doing life with him. I have friends, both old and new, who bring so much joy into my life. Yeah, so family and friends. I think I'm gonna close this reflection period here, but I hope that maybe it's eye-opening or interesting to see how someone else navigates grief. I don't think we talk about it often, and I think most people go through grief. Even if it's just a friend or family, a lot of people go through periods of grief, but we don't really talk about how we all deal with it. And the weird thing is that the duality of life is that you can be feeling such extreme grief and sadness in one aspect, but life can still be great. Life can still be great. Life is still great. I am living the life of my dreams, really. But at the same time, it still sucks that he's not here. And I guess that's just the duality of life. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video here. I will see you on the next video. Bye.